Hi everyone, welcome to Lilybug's Library. My name's Linda, and welcome to Friday Reads. And if you're wondering why I'm wearing the same shirt I was in my Thursday poetry video, it's because it's really still Thursday. But I have company coming for the weekend, so I figured this was a good time to take care of both because I know I won't finish any books between now and tomorrow. So I had two books that I read this week. The first one was When the Clock Chimes Two, and that one was by Adriana Licio. And it wasn't bad. It was about Zoe, who she's wasn't feeling very good about life. She has a boss that kind of takes advantage of her, and has her running and doing things all the time. And a father and sister-in-law who are kind of the same way, but the whole point was she's letting them. She's not standing up for herself. So she goes to see what's supposed to be just kind of an acquaintance of hers. I'm not sure, why you would tell all this to an acquaintance, but she did. And so she tells it to Agnes, or Agnes, I'm not sure how you pronounce her name. So she tells it to her, and she runs a perfume shop. And she concocts this perfume with all these different scents and tells Zoe that, spray some of this on, it'll give you courage, it'll give you kind of a backbone, and you'll be able to not be a doormat to these people. So Zoe takes it to heart, and she does just that. And she wakes up in the morning, and she heads off to work, and basically tells her boss that she's not going to put up with his shenanigans anymore, that, she works, these hours, and that's it. And if he wants her to work, more than that, then he needs to pay her overtime, and all these different things. And she, has a confrontation with her father and one with her sister-in-law, and she's really feeling better about herself because she's, taking a stand. She's got some boundaries going. But then it ends up that someone ends up dead, and they think that Zoe is the one that killed them. So it's up to Geo, who is the sister of Agnes, and she is a private investigator, or at least she does that on the side. And so it's up to her to decide what's going on, what happened, how is it that Zoe got involved with all this. Did Zoe actually kill this person? And she's guided by her grandmother, who, keeps saying, well, a sheep is always a sheep and a wolf is always a wolf, and, that you can tell people's personalities that way. So it wasn't bad. It was kind of a cute story. Had, a couple of decent twists in it. Again, I felt like I wanted more. Because it was a novella, it was quite short. I felt like I didn't really get a very big sense of anyone in the story, other than maybe Zoe a bit. So good for what it was, but I would love to see, an actual longer novel with these characters. And I'd give that one probably about a 3 out of 5. So the next one I read, because that one was kind of a little bit of a palate cleanser between big books. So the next one I read was Tess of the D'Urbervilles, which I've wanted to read for quite a while. It was written by Thomas Hardy, I believe back in the 1800s. So it was good. It was I had to really kind of decide what I thought about it. It's about this girl named Tess Derbyfield, and she, her family is impoverished, and she's, the family's not really doing that well. And then her father, he talks to someone and gets it in his head that they actually are D'Urbervilles, not D'Urberfields, and that their station in life is much better, and that, that family is wealthy. So they're kind of trying to kind of ride on their coattails, I guess. And no proof that they actually were part of that family, but he feels that they were. So she goes to meet her cousin, Alec. Alex? Alec. Yeah, Alec. And kind of see if she can ingratiate herself with that side of the family, because her parents have led her to do that. She thinks maybe she can get a job in the house, kind of work her way up, that sort of things. Anyway, she ends up having a problem with her cousin, which leads her to do other things. And then another man comes, she meets him in a different area. His name is Angel. And she really falls for him and really wants to have a relationship with him. But she doesn't feel she's good enough for him for various reasons. So it's about their relationship and kind of where it goes, and her self-esteem and how she feels about herself. I will say that I know it's a very old book. It was tough with the fact that without a man, then like there was not much she could do. She really needed someone that was going to marry her in order for her life to get any better. Any jobs that she would be allowed to do because she was a woman weren't anything that would really keep her sustained. And then there were very different standards for men and women, which some people would say there still are. But, women were thought of very differently then. So it was interesting. It was had a lot of, I think Tess went through some growth, but I do think for the most part she was still very much tied up in the men in her life and what she thought of them, and how she was going to get by with them. She had a lot of spunk, though. There was one spot where she walked for miles and miles to get to some place through all kinds of weather, and so she did have some good perseverance. Now, what I think what is going to raise the rating of the book for me is the fact that when you're at about 94% of it, there is a big twist, and that was kind of the point where I went, whoa, I didn't see that coming. And so the rest of the story after that took on a whole different feel. So I would probably I'd give it 3.5 rounded up to 4. Am I going to remember it a month from now? Not the particulars. I probably will remember the twist, but the rest of the book I'm sure will fade fairly quickly. So I'm sure it was a really interesting read, particularly in that time period. It's probably not something that would be normally discussed, but it wasn't everything I'd hoped it would be. So that's that for Tess of the D'Urbervilles. And that was it for my reading for the week. I'm still working on a couple of other books. I'm reading On Isabella Street, which I'm less than halfway through, so I've still got a ways to go on that one. And I just started listening to something. Let me look. This or That, I think it's called. Something along that line. Give me 1 second here to look it up. It is called... Oh, no, it's not called that. It's called When the Day Comes. And it's about this woman, and apparently her mother can do this as well. She calls it something different, but they're basically time travelers. They can go between 2 different times until they're 21. And then at that point, they have to choose a time. So anyway, just starting that one, but so far I'm intrigued. We'll see where it goes. So that's what I'm reading at the moment. As for what I'm watching and listening to, we just finished the first season of The Pit, which was excellent. Highly recommend, so long as you're not too squeamish and you don't have any hospital trauma. It's a good series. We're watching Master Chef. Just finished Survivor. So a lot of the shows that we normally watch we've just kind of wrapped them up. So we're getting ready to kind of look for some new shows or go back to other ones that we didn't give quite as much love to. We'll see how that goes. As for what I'm listening to, like that book I just told you about with the time traveler, I'm actually listening to that on Hoopla. Um, and yeah, that's about it. Looking forward to the weather continuing to improve. We've had some lovely days, so I'm hoping it just gets better and better. So I hope you have a great day and a great weekend. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.